crazy.
That's the council member is one, triple the payment. Well, that's good. You can have it.
Not a clock in there, so I have there's no clock in there.
No,
You're gonna try to triple.
Like my phone and card is not
it's
charging.
7:30 right now.
1930.
It'll be enough last night.
It's really funny. So you're doing citizen petition?
No, I agree.
Is he like a tree trimming company? Show me those the other day. Get any worse? Hard work though, isn't it?
Yeah, you better put me on the truck that he promised me he should put me on there.
The Town of Malabar regular town council meeting Monday, July 15, 2019 at 7:30 shall commence. Please stand for our prayer.
As we bow our heads to pray, may each of us thank our Creator for the privilege of living in and serving our community. We ask for wisdom and guidance in any and all decisions. We also ask for the protection of the members of our armed services, pray for their safe return, and give strength to their loved ones. These we ask in thy name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Council Chair Mayor Patrick T. Riley.
Here.
Vice Chair Steve Rivet.
Here.
Council members Brian Bale.
Here.
Dick Torn.
Here.
Danny White.
Here.
Town Administrator Matt Stinnett.
Here.
Town Attorney Carl Bone.
Here.
I'm the Town Clerk Treasurer Debbie Franklin.
Thank you.
Councilman Ball is here also.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have.
I forgot Grant.
Sorry, Grant.
He's here because he's not all here, or not all there.
All right, do we have any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda? Debbie, we have nothing.
I had one request to add ordinance 2019-10 for first reading. It is in regards to the qualifying period for the 2019 ballot.
And the reason why we gotta do this is,
The legislature in this session passed Senate Bill 7066, which moved the timing between the primary and the general election by another week. So it's now 11 weeks, which puts our qualifying period overlapping when I have to have the ballot information to the supervisor of elections so she can mail out the absentee ballots. So I'm proposing in this ordinance a 1-week qualifying period from August 7th to the 14th, so I can meet my deadline of the 16th.
okay. All in favor of adding it?
All right, that's
Uh,
fine.
Thank you. We'll move it as 2A.
Okay.
I entertain a motion for the approval of the town council meeting minutes of July 1st, 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0. All right, move on to the sheriff's report. Thanks for coming.
So the good news and the bad news is we are having an issue with our computer-aided dispatch program, the new work program still. It is not on our end, it's actually on the vendor's end. We're having issues with, in essence, 3 of our zones. One is the Palm Shores, one is Grant, Valkyria, and one, of course, is Malabar. So I'm only limited to certain things as far as the previous months is what we can find in the pass on. We did have a stolen vehicle, which an arrest was made on in June. And we also had a stolen motorcycle, which is currently still being worked by our agents. We did have a aggravated assault with a firearm on Frangipani, and then we had a stolen firearm as far as all of the criminal acts that I was able to research through our pass on. We are dealing with, I know it's an issue later for the council on Corey Road and Benjamin. With the stop sign, our motor unit isn't aggressively and written quite a few citations through that intersection. So that's all I have as far as statistics, unfortunately.
Go ahead, Dave.
I'd like to speak, I've been gone for 2 weeks, so I can't tell you anything about the last 2 weeks, except for today.
Yes.
I saw 2 of your patrol cars monitoring Malabar Road most of the day today, because I was up and down the road a few times.
Yes, sir.
One at Corey and Malabar, and the other one was moving around. But I'm glad to hear what you just said about being aggressive on Corey Road, at the Benjamin thing, but on the whole road. I live dead in the middle of Weber Road.
Yes,
And
sir.
I'm gonna tell you, there people fly. The other day, last Tuesday evening actually was, the only time I was home last week. I come down, southbound on Weber Road and realized I'm going 50 miles an hour, but the reason I realized, I looked down and some guy had just passed me like I'm going in reverse. And that's pretty common. I mean, people fly that road. And the stop signs are traffic control, not speed control devices, but it can have that effect maybe. But we've got less abusive traffic on it right now than we had 10 years ago. But we need aggressive patrolling on both of those roads, because they're both 3-mile-long racetracks, ever since they were paved in 1990. So I've already talked to Lindsay Deaton. I haven't talked to the sheriff himself, but she passed my message on to, Lindsay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, about we need much more aggressive patrolling in Malabar. I'm not talking about just sitting around, I'm talking about aggressive patrolling, and you just reported that you are doing something.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Our murder unit has been quite a bit in the area here lately, so, on top of the zone units.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, while we're on this subject, I have to ask a question because it's been brought up by 2 of my constituents. There's been several times apparently, and I was called by 2 people, where Palm Bay Police will pull in on just off of US 1, just in Malabar, and write tickets or pull cars over. We don't know if they write tickets, but pull cars over. And I've been asked, is that permitted?
We do have a mutual aid with them, but they're not normally permitted to just run traffic arbitrarily within the county area and incorporate it. Or actually, they can stop if they're running radar, for example, and they're coming from the city, they can make the stop in the county unincorporated area, absolutely, and continue the traffic stop. But they cannot enforce the speed that occurred in the county into the city. The only way that would actually occur is if we utilize mutual aid at that point, which would have to be a little bit more egregious than just a little bit of speed.
They have to follow from their jurisdiction.
Correct. Yes.
Well, I don't know that I have, more law enforcement, to me, is actually a good thing. However, from the people who were complaining about it, they thought that that was wrong to be sitting in Malabar, stopped, and then pulling cars over on US 1, and apparently it's happened twice. So,
I can look into it. There's quite a bit of reasons that could happen. One would be if it's something as simple as a reckless driver that's reported on US 1, and they're sitting there waiting for it, they could be coming north or southbound. A lot of times we utilize them if we can't get someone to the area quickly.
that makes sense.
So that's also something we utilize them quite a bit for. So, but I wouldn't know without looking at each specific incident.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How are we doing on vehicle burglars?
We had, and you have to bear with me.
I know you.
I'm sorry with the stats. When I come through pass on for June, there was one vehicle burglary on Howell on the 25th, and it was, I believe that one was an unlocked vehicle where some change in items were taken.
Yeah, because I've been locking my truck.
That's the only
Because
one.
I haven't done
Across the
that.
street from me.
I haven't done that in almost 20 years I've lived here. And I've known Malabar since 78. But it's kind of a shame you gotta lock your cars. And part of it, I'm assuming, is kids out of school.
It always goes up about this time of year. Between them, they get, I'm going to say restless, or, they should be home when they should. But one of the biggest trends that we have is car hopping. is what they call it, and they will go hang out with their friends, and next thing you know, they're walking and they're just tugging on doors until they find the winner. And when it opens up, they go in. It's actually rare that we get to smash windows as much anymore because so many people have left them unlocked that that's how they sometimes get riddled through neighborhoods, unfortunately. And it is a shame, you do have to lock your car in.
And we haven't had any broken windows in town thus far, it's only been unlocked cars.
Correct. Yes.
I can't speak for last few weeks, but a month ago on Weber, during 1 week, there were 2 or 3 cars, and I mentioned in one of the deputies, that parked and look, just sit there and look at houses, they have no reason to be where they are, they'll stay 10 or 15 minutes till somebody comes out and walks towards them, then they'll take off.
Anybody else? All right, thank you for your time, Christian.
Thanks, sir.
All right, move on to attorney's report. All right, move on to staff reports. Matt?
Just a little update from the TPO-TAC meeting last week. We had a handful of items that we took action on. One was endorsing Vision Zero, concept to strive for 0 fatalities and traffic-related incidents, and kind of implementing that into the planning process that the TPO does. So they'll be kind of working to develop an action plan, how they can implement that into their process. We approved the 2045 long-range transportation plan goals, and we looked at the 2020-2024 transportation improvement program. It's kind of a short-range plan of things that are actually going to be happening in the next 5 years. Included in that is $1.7 million next year for the Weber and Corey turn lane intersections, so they're going to start construction next fiscal year, and $4.5 million for 2022, and another $1 million in 23 for engineering and environmental engineering as well on the major widening project. The 2020 transportation project priorities was also approved that, which has our widening project is number 5 on the priority list. Then we got an update from FDOT on 528. They're going through and doing the stormwater and environmental studies now as far as engineering goes. Their project development, and they were an interesting item they're looking at. Instead of trying to treat the stormwater running off this project and buying up big tracts of land to put stormwater ponds, that they're going to take their funding and spend it on septic and sewer transformations in local communities. So they expect to get a better water quality treatment out of that program than actually putting in ponds. Interesting concept. That's all I got.
Anything? Madam Clerk?
Yeah, I've got quite a bit tonight. Most of you have been in here and you've noticed the project that we're working on out here. It's a records management and retention project that will ultimately provide all permanent records access via Laserfish program stored on the cloud. There will also be an online portal for citizens to access public records. We will be using an affiliate of the Municode Corp. It's MCCI, Municode Corp. Incorporated. That's a company that codifies our ordinances now and provides our code books. This has become necessary because we're running out of physical space at Town Hall and at our storage unit. This will be a budgeted item in the next budget year, as there will be an annual subscription and support cost of approximately $3,600. The initial work that we're doing now will be funded from the surplus in the administrative account and the building department restricted reserves on deposit, which we have a surplus of right now. And then going back to this ordinance, I attended the Brevard County City Clerks Association July lunch meeting today, where the supervisor of election and her staff comes and briefs us on new legislative bills that have passed that will have an impact on municipalities. And that's where I learned of this conflict that we have. If there were to be a challenge on either the District 4 or District 5 ballots, we could be in trouble, because if we don't have our ballot information to the supervisor of election, she's been mandated by this Senate Bill 7066. She must have her information out on the absentee ballots out in the mail a week earlier than she did last year, which pushes our date back. So in order to make sure that we don't have any conflicts, I'm proposing this ordinance. The attorney's already reviewed it. Essentially, we had to do the same thing in 2008 because the legislature moved from 9 weeks between the primary and the general election. They changed it to 10. Now they've changed it to 11 weeks. So it's similar language for right now. It's just changing our qualifying period from August 7th to the 21st. It's changing it from August 7th to August 14th, allowing me 2 days then to finalize all this stuff and get it to them by the 16th. So the other thing that we have to keep in mind is if we, as council has spoken quite a bit about this over the last year, if you're proposing to put a referendum question on the ballot, I need to have that language, and the attorney has drafted a couple different drafts that we could give to you for your review after the road workshop. We could have a brief workshop on this referendum question, and if you want to go forward, then we could have that for first reading on August 5th, but we have to have a special meeting on the 12th, the following Monday, in order to meet our deadline. And that's if you want to go forward with the referendum question this year. Referendum question that you guys were discussing would not impact us in this next fiscal year. It would be the next fiscal year. So that's for you to think about. Let's see what else I have here.
May I ask you a question
And
on that
that's all I
point?
have.
May I ask her a question on that point?
Yeah, go ahead.
In the past, it's been a 2-week qualifying period, you've reduced it to 1 week. Can
Right.
you just start on August the 1st and have a 2-week qualifying period? I'm not qualifying this year, but
Well, we're one of the few cities that actually has such a big qualifying. You usually get it done in a day. Most cities have a 3 to 5 day qualifying
they have to get
period.
15 signatures and this and that and fill out
Just
everything.
15 signatures, that's what you have to do, and sign some paperwork that I have put together in a packet.
I just want
So
to give
yes,
any
it is-
potential candidates enough time to get it done, that's all.
You know, it'll go up on the website and it'll be published as,
They can actually start early though, can't they?
no, you can't
You
start
cannot just
until you
execute
pick up and you make your campaign treasurer report, your DS, whatever it is, 9, 12. You can't solicit signatures until after that's submitted, and that can't be submitted until qualifying begins.
I'd like to see them have 2 weeks, just because I know how long it's taken me a couple times to get around to getting it done.
Anything else, then?
No, that's all I have.
Any questions? All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on down to our action items, ordinance for first reading. Amend Chapter 11, Section 11.8A, providing for public right-of-way, ordinance 2019-09. Please read on the title only.
An ordinance of the Town of Malabar, Brevard County, Florida, amending Chapter 11, Section 11-8A of the Code of Ordinance of the town, providing for the maintenance of property, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and providing for an effective date.
Do I entertain a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I've read over this, and I've had a couple phone calls from people. And if we are going to continue with being a not a reactive, a proactive,
Non-reactive.
non-reactive, the complaints that were brought here is this is making it more and more a reactive thing.
It also, we were talking the last time we were here about pretty much responsible to cut the right-of-ways out too. And certain people, there's nothing in here that says cutting the grass or how high. It looks like everything we're doing in this one paragraph, when it's all over and done with, will be incredibly subjective. And how do we determine that to begin with? I mean, if somebody's grass is at 18 inches, is that too high?
There is a code that speaks to that.
Debbie?
The consensus of council at the last meeting was for us to make no further language additions that would make it stricter or more restrictive. We simply, the attorney pointed out that our current code did not even recognize public right-of-ways. They only spoke of private right-of-ways. So we were directed to simply add the word public to it and not make any more restrictions on property owners.
And that's all we did.
Yes.
Well, we're changing the maintenance of property versus private property. And then we're changing alleys, curbs, public or private right-of-ways, abutting their properties, the paved road to the edge of the road surface, and for unpaved, but we're talking about keeping within the town shall maintain their property in a clean and litter-free condition, including sidewalks, grass strips, and alleys. That could be construed on a garbage day, that if you put your stuff out there and it stays there for some length of time, that you're not in compliance with this. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's what I see.
So what I'm saying is this doesn't address the mowing of grass, but it could if you call waste management and you have a wash machine out there and they let it sit there for 2 weeks, somebody could say that you're not properly addressing this ordinance, correct?
The only thing that's changing are the word. The
Well, I
rest of it's
understand
already in the
that.
code.
Maybe what's brought up is I have an issue with the way the ordinance is, period,
Presently.
presently.
All right, I got one and then two.
Okay, I've got an issue with new requirements, putting new requirements on our residents. You know, for a long time, we've been talking about encouraging people to mow the right of ways, and I am absolutely have no problem with that. When we put requirements that will eventually lead to, you know, being hauled in front of a special master, I am 100% opposed to it.
I kind of like the idea of this, but it's in line with what I've done since I moved here. I've always mowed out to the road, from the ditch to the road. My neighbors have, one or the other of us have always mowed in front of the undeveloped property in that area. We've kept our part of Weber Road, 2 or 3 houses wide, pretty well cleaned up. But the question I have, if we make this a law, an ordinance, whatever you want to call it, what if someone is injured in complying with this? Because you try to cut down in front of my house, you could land in that ditch upside down pretty easy. And what about the cases where you can't really mow down in there? Now, Jim, you wrote a letter where you had adjusted, well, the letter came to council, where he had modified the edges of the ditch so he could get his mower in there. But are our residents allowed to reconfigure town property? These are not addressed in there. And I'm concerned about the liability. I like the idea of encouraging the people to keep their front yard all the way to the road nicely.
Yeah.
That's as far as I can go.
I think think we put this mowing question to rest last meeting, okay, so there's no question, we're not gonna pass an ordinance to force people to go the right of way. And what I hear Grant saying is, okay, this verbiage that was already there about debris-free, clean area, granted, when we haul refuse out to the curbside, trees and such, it can take a while to pick that up. This is just a matter of reason and judgment that we don't raise. Yeah, we're not going to attack the individual resident about such a thing. And if they have put, say, a washer machine out there and contacted Waste Management, well, that ends that argument also. Now, there are instances where people put material out there that Waste Management can't necessarily pick up, such as treated lumber, fences and fencing, tires and such, and they don't contact Waste Management to take care of it. They don't contact Waste Management to take care of it. That needs to be addressed. I see that more often than not. I could point out several places just on Corey and Nats right now that have treated lumber sitting there that Waste Management pickup is not going to just pick it up on a normal basis.
It will tell you to get a Baxter, and put it in that, and they'll pick up the whole bag.
Okay, I'm just gonna reiterate what Councilmember White said. We had very specific direction from staff, from council to staff, that we're not to make the ordinance any more restrictive. Staff understands where you're coming from. We're to encourage people to maintain that area, but we're not gonna go out with proactive code enforcement. There are other sections of Chapter 11 that deal with maintenance of side yards and front yards when there is a code issue and there has been a complaint. This particular language was only changed because our attorney pointed out that the section, subparagraph 8A, only referred to maintenance of private property and then did not make a reference to public right-of-ways. So,
Brian?
Yeah, I understood that as to be housekeeping as well, with no more restrictions.
Correct.
You know, I am not proactive code enforcement, I am reactive only. The only thing we do have to have in our code is for somebody, when somebody does complain, and our town staff has to react, is the code adequate to react? So, and if a neighbor has a complaint, how is there enough for them to address the neighbor's complaint, or should they just tell the neighbor, well, we can't do anything about it? You know, that's where we're at. So this was, this is kind of a twofold reply here, but again, it was just housekeeping. But in light of that, I don't know how our staff is to enforce on something like it. It said private property, so it didn't say public, so the town can get away with anything they want to if it's public property. And then the edge of road was edge of paved road, so if you're on a dirt road, you're exempt. So there is a code, but it did not conform to the type of roads and type of neighborhoods in our town, so that was my understanding, that we were just doing housekeeping. So.
Carl,
But if you recall, the first ordinance we did was a lot more comprehensive, and we were again told by the council, no, you put too many more restrictions on people. So fine, we're okay with that. And I just pointed out that this only addressed paved roads, private paved roads, not public roads at all, nor dirt roads. That's how the original ordinance that we have in there just said it's maintenance of private property, and it talks about maintaining that property free of litter-free to the edge of pavement. I don't know how many private paved roads we might have in the town, but it would seem to me that it exempted a whole class of roads.
Right, any other discussion?
Yeah, we do have, there's other code sections that talk about accumulation of debris, both private and public and all that. There's at least 3 other sections, but this one specifically dealt with that area in between, I guess, the property line and the edge of pavement, or the dirt road. That's what this specifically is designed to cover.
That include the area between the road and the sidewalk and Holloway is.
Wherever the right of way, I don't know.
It's a public right of way.
Correct.
All right, any other discussion?
Steve, have something?
All right, we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Ball,
Okay?
Councilmember Vale,
Aye.
Councilmember Rivet,
Nay.
Councilmember Corn,
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Motion carried 3 to 2.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on down to ordinance 2019-10. Please read by title only.
An ordinance of the Town of Malabar, Brevard County, Florida, amending ordinance 2008-06 regarding the candidate qualifying period to conform with Senate Bill 7066, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for an effective date.
I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move to approve the ordinance.
I'll second.
Grant.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to, I would also like to see a qualifying period that includes 2 weekends. If it was 9 days long, but included 2 weekends, I would be a lot more comfortable with that than 1 week.
I agree.
It's okay, that's fine.
I mean, I don't know how that works out with the calendar. Is
It'd
that
be
possible?
7/31.
I
Well, I do.
don't, okay. I didn't calculate, so.
So,
I would,
Can that work?
I mean, do you have an objection to that?
I don't have an objection, but
It's coming
today's
up
the
quick.
15th,
Yeah.
okay?
it's coming
And
up
our
soon.
next council meeting is the 5th of August, where you would have the second reading.
So we have to have 2 readings.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
so
so,
qualifying
yeah,
has already started.
So that's why I
Before we
made it the
adopted the
7th to the
ordinance.
14th.
okay,
well,
Just this
hey,
year.
okay, we can
We
address
could-
it next year.
couldn't we still do it the way you described, Steve? And it would still take place next year, okay? You
Talking
understand?
about this year.
Well, this ordinance would be for this
Yeah, the way it's-
qualifying period in 2019.
The one that's coming up.
Do another one.
As Rich
But what I
went
mean is during the
through,
second reading, when we approved it as of 7/31, then it's from that point on.
Well, so the second reading is on August 5th.
The problem is that
Yeah.
qualifying would have started before we approved the ordinance.
Yeah.
So for this year, we can't do it.
Well, okay, I know, what I'm trying to say is, I know the date is before the second reading, but it would actually start at the moment of the second reading.
But the second reading would be after qualifying began. And if
Correct.
there were a
All right, I
challenge,
was just trying to keep
Trying
them
to,
back.
we thought about that, and that's what
Yeah.
she, so that was
Okay.
kind of why we picked cutting it back a week, and then if you want to change it next year, you change it back. I mean, this is just an unfortunate
We'll have to
situation.
do it in June, maybe not July. Okay.
so do you want to amend the motion to approve ordinance 2019-10 for this year only?
I think that's a good point, I mean, if we want to change it next year, we can change it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, legislatures, they like to do things to us that
Qualified period would be.
they can change it again next year.
I'm sorry, I
7
forgot.
to 14.
Okay, so I'm good with it as written then.
Any other discussion?
I would like to see it just include 2 weekends.
Well, that's what we said, we can't.
I'm just making,
No, I'm the same, I'm
It
right.
doesn't have to be 2 full weeks, but at a minimum, 2 weekends.
People don't realize that
Between, that's.
everyone up here has a job.
Yeah.
Right.
And how do you do this when you have 1 week to get it accomplished if you're busy?
Yeah.
And 2 weekends that you can take off on the weekends. I
I
wholly
I mean, I
understand.
know we can't change it now, but I was,
would like to say 2 years ago, I got mine done in half a day. Okay? This is a small town.
Me too.
and I think I did mine on the day before I had to turn in the paperwork. I started at 5 o'clock, and in a matter of 4 hours, I had the ample amount of signatures.
That was
I
what I
did.
went through. Okay.
If we needed for 2 weekends, such as Councilman Urban suggests, we have a workshop on next Monday night and another one on the following Monday night. Could we have a special council meeting to deal with the second reading of this? On one of those nights when we're already here.
Debbie?
Advertising was in.
I've got to be able to advertise it. I can't guarantee I can get it in and get it turned around that quick.
Again, I'm okay with this as written, as long as it's only this year. I think we can put up for one,
I agree
for
with
one
that.
time.
As long as we.
But you don't want to change the wording at all. We're not going to say just this year.
Okay.
All right. Do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Ball?
Aye.
Councilmember Vale?
Aye.
Councilmember Ribbit?
Aye.
Councilmember Corn?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0.
All right, short night. Carl, thanks for your time.
Another good meeting, that's 2 in a row. That's good meetings, good job, 5 minutes for you, good job.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the discussion of, to remove the stop sign at Corey Road and Benjamin Road. So, staff want to talk on this first?
We took direction from you. We put it on this agenda, brought it back for discussion. It was submitted to the South Precinct, and we have a deputy here.
Do you want to say anything about this?
You already said they're aggressively.
Yeah, okay. Well, I just send it to you.
But I got a couple questions for him.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
They have been addressing it. I spoke with the corporal of our motor unit, the traffic enforcement unit. He said he's actually written quite a few citations his unit has out there. I don't have the numbers on them, unfortunately. And a lot of the problem that he's come across is he's having to go inside 55 miles an hour just right through that stop sign. So they've been writing citations. I asked him his opinion, if the stop sign is something that, in his opinion, not the entire sheriff's office, but based on the traffic enforcement, if it was helpful to be there, and he said absolutely, in his opinion. At first, he thought maybe it wasn't really something that needed to be there, but as they sat there and enforced it, they said it absolutely needed to be there. Because, in all honesty, he says it is slowing down a good majority of folks because they have to stop at the stop sign. You know, I know that the consensus from the petition that I saw earlier, there are some folks that are definitely against the stop sign, and I understand that also.
Well, my problem is with the first line, this position is because of noise. Now, doing away with the stop sign is going to decrease the noise of fast cars? I don't quite understand that.
You're saying that way for people stopping in a hurry.
No, I'm asking him.
I wouldn't see how that would have any bearing on it, not what I can understand at this point.
It says they come to a screeching stop and then peel out when they leave or something like that.
If they're going speed limit, they shouldn't be coming to a screeching stop, to be truthfully honest. I mean, that's the only way to look at it. I know that when I stop a vehicle hard, you know, I've got a bunch of kids and they drive me nuts. And I stop my personal vehicle hard every once in a while, but my tires aren't screeching, so.
Now, the thing is, we put those there for safety reasons, so we wouldn't end up having an accident at that.
Yes, sir.
Do you feel if we took them out, it would play into a more unsafe condition?
My opinion, based on my discussion with Corporal, is absolutely. The reason being is it's going to open it back up for speeding. The other possible resolution that he came up with, which sometimes is good, sometimes it drives homeowners, especially within a certain area, absolutely bonkers, is to add in speed bumps. He said that would be the only thing, but however, you know, when you go through a speed bump, depending on how far you put them across, you're going to have vehicles that are hopping all over the place, and if they're speeding on there and they hit that speed bump at a good speed, then you've got another issue with collision also. But in his opinion, that, you know, the traffic signs actually should stay.
Now, I'm not an advocate of speed bumps at all, but prior to a stop street, does it make sense to have, what is it called, that's just a little protrusions, where it's rumble strips or something.
Rumble strips, yes, those were suggested also.
We had those, and we pulled them out.
And they pulled them out.
And those do generate noise.
Yes.
Okay.
I've done a lot of research
Thank you.
on this all day today, and, or actually, since we first got the.
Hold on. Is there any more questions for the sheriff?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I need to call to the attention of the council a few facts about this petition. Now, the primary petitioner, Beverly Botaniano, does live right there at that corner. Other than that, there are many of these addresses are not Malabar residents. Some of them live as many as 5/10 of a mile away. I've been doing this all day. I've been researching this. I went through these lists. The first page here, we've got one, Miss Vitaliano, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people on the first page. Well, actually, somebody, the Vitalianos, no, it was her husband, Bill was the other one, are Malabar registered voters. On the second page, there are no Malabar registered voters. There are also no Malabar residents. On the third page, there are no Malabar voters, and most of the residents are in Grant Valcaria, because the last house in Malabar is 3280, the Italiano. Anything begins with 33 or higher is in Grant Valcaria. There are no registered voters in Malabar on that page, and on the last page, the Harrises, the last 2 signatures on here, are the only Malabar registered voters. Out of all of those people, we've got about 8 Malabar registered voters. The rest of them are all people who live elsewhere, or so far away. Like the one who lived out on Kramer Lane, there's no way they could have a wreck at that corner, and they wouldn't even hear it. I believe in traffic control, because where I live on Weber Road, and I would assume, I'd stake my left arm on the fact that I'm accurate on this, I would say that Corey Road is as bad as Weber. People fly that road. I was telling the deputy, I was going well over the speed limit Tuesday afternoon and got passed by a car that made me look like I was in reverse. And it's pretty common on both. We need as much traffic control as we can get. Not just speed control, but there are advanced signs before all of our stop signs except one, I think, at Hall Road. And if people don't see those advanced signs and prepare to stop, then they're a distracted driver. And that's a problem, isn't it? Distracted driving.
Absolutely.
And we've got children, we've got driveways, we've got animals, we've got adults who, all of whom could be killed by distracted drivers. Or people driving both recklessly and carelessly. I would say, as much as we can do in the name of public safety, not in the name of keeping your bedroom quiet, I think is important. And that's why I have been an advocate of all of these signs for a long, long time.
All right.
And anything else we can do for public safety.
Is there any motion for any direction for staff?
I move that we leave the sign as is.
Well, the motion is staff, okay, that's a good motion.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay. All right, any further discussion?
Yeah, I have further discussion on
Got
that.
it.
Basically, it sounds like it needs more enforcement. Its lack of enforcement due to its proximity.
Well, I called the sheriff's office and asked for that.
And obviously, the sheriff is ultimately aware of it, as he has addressed it on both 2 times this evening. So I think they recognize this issue. They're addressing this issue aggressively, as it was mentioned before. So I think we just let the sheriff do their job and control this intersection that has been, not regularly patrolled. And that goes for, in my younger days, you could get a ticket for an improper start. And that I assume is still a ticketable offense.
Improper start itself, no, it's not, unfortunately. Used to be, yes.
Okay, but if they
But
feel
there are
they're
other-
tired, if they do a burnout from the
Yeah.
stop sign, at a minimum, they're gonna get pulled over to get a warning or something. So,
Tire salesman.
and I don't, I'm assuming it's not, and I haven't sat at that intersection day and night and listened, but I assume 95, 98% of the people that are stopping at that stop sign, and I go through that intersection quite often myself, I slow down at a normal pace and I take off at a normal pace. But of course, just like the car that just went over the tracks, there's gonna be that occasional one that makes that, makes that obnoxious, that situation. So I think we just leave it lie and let the sheriff do their job and see.
Dan?
I was down there for a while this morning because I pulled the calendar, city of Malabar signed up. Robert Horn, primary.
Moving our borders?
Yes. And I was primering the post, and that took a little while, and several people came through from Benjamin and on Corey. First thing I observed when I got there, because there had been some discussion of, well, do we have the prepared stop signs adequately placed? Absolutely we do. And everybody that came to that intersection while I was there today behaved perfectly. They were slow, they stopped. My hat's off to you, Dick, about the research you did there, because I can only imagine somebody a half mile down Corey is more concerned about not wanting to stop at that stop sign than they are any kind of noise that's going to get produced.
People have been in Greenwood too.
So anyway, that's part of that thing. I don't think that we should pull up stop signs for such argument.
Any other discussion?
Well, what he just said, I'll tell the deputy. The stop sign, when it was put in on Weber Road at the corner of Bass Road, Billy Hammer can tell you the first person that blew it was me.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried 5-0 to leave it alone, right? Leave it.
And encourage enforcement.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Make sure that the sheriff knows what you're doing out there himself, Mr. Ivan.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'll be talking with him sometime this week personally, but make sure that he knows, because I didn't reach him when I talked to Lindsay. She passed my message on to him, and I'm sure.
Good.
All right, we'll move on to public comments. I got one card, Jose Marino.
Good evening, Jose Marino, 1720 Benjamin Road. May I remind you that at one point in time, you established up dollar amounts that were ridiculously expensive to video record your meetings. These extreme figures were what you quoted as the reason you couldn't make video counseling meeting public. I have out of my own time and expense provided this service, and it has not cost administration any money. Now the mayor has on more than one occasion encouraged me to stop recording as the bad people are gone. The comment has been, why do you keep wasting your time recording when there is no need to do so? I would like an explanation at this time to those continued remarks. I have noted that fewer people are coming to the meeting since the last election, when we lost the only voice who continuously communicated with the public. It seems to me, if you made this video public on your town website, you might get more public involvement. Maybe the mayor and you, the council, do not desire this. Be thankful that someone in the community has volunteered to keep the public informed as they should be. let me remind you that the recording, I publicized, posted, unedited, as they happen. Thank you.
I'm just gonna say that I did ask him on a couple of occasions where the videos are posted, as I have never been able to find them.
They're on next door.
No, actually, what he told me was, they were on YouTube. So I've looked on YouTube and I've never found them. So the last time I asked him, I said, don't you have anything better to do on Monday night? So I never told him that he was wasting his time, so that never happened. And I don't remember, the bad people are gone. I don't know where you got that comment, so that's all I'm gonna say. All I'm gonna say is, you know, Tom Etchenberg started a recording, and we used to put it on the website, and it got cost a lot to do it, and the time and effort and everything else. So if a citizen wants to record, I'm all for it. It just, the only thing I asked is where it was, and I've never seen one recording of a meeting ever. So, Dick?
Several years ago, when Mr. Eschenberg was the mayor, his son Barry set up two video thing, because Channel 13 was carrying videos of some of the cities, but Barry has some physical handicap with his eyes. He's macular degeneration. Can't do it all by himself. He knows how to do it all, but we didn't continue through with that because it wouldn't help. Now, Jose got involved at the request of some of the people that we referred to as the other side of the fence. What he's referring to as bad people, I don't know if they're necessarily bad, but anyhow, he started doing this, and Dawn or somebody usually puts it on next door, because I have seen several of these. He doesn't, I haven't stopped him and watched one all the way through, but I pulled up parts of it. I think Mr. Moreno should be commended for what he's been doing at his expense and at his time. And if he wants to continue, we should maybe even encourage that. But we ought to give him a certificate of commendation for what he has been doing, for what has turned out now to be the right reasons to inform the people. All of the people, not just those people that I referred to in a colloquial way. I won't use that term again because everybody thought I was talking about people living in a hole in the rock. But he's done a good job. Jose, thank you. And he lives near the stop sign we were just talking about too. Do you hear all the people screeching off?
Never.
See? And he, what are you, 2 houses away from the stop sign?
About 150 yards.
All right, Brian.
Jose, I just want to say thank you for doing what you do.
You're welcome.
And it's just been, and Debbie can correct me if I'm wrong, but it has proven cost prohibitive for us to do it on a legal records keeping. Record retention. Yeah, we have to have record retention, and if we take on the video aspect of it to conform to all the standards of which the town must conform to, it's very costly. There's audible recordings of the meeting, and also there is recordings like yourself, and before you were doing this, it was also being done in another method. So I think the video is huge because people can sit at home and watch the meeting and see what, I mean, you can listen to a recording, but it's not the same as seeing the video. You know, you don't see the facial expressions, you're not able to read the people, you know, and I think the video is a good thing, but it is not cost effective, and for us, as limited as our budget is, I don't think it's money well spent on a town level. And again, thank you for doing that, since we can't.
Barry was trying to do it concurrent with the meeting.
Right, Grant.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being here for the people to do that. However, I'm not on social media, and how can I find it if I'm not on social media? Where do I go to look for it?
YouTube.
They're on YouTube, and they're also on, what's the website you mentioned?
Nextdoor.
Nextdoor, thank you.
Yeah,
That's social media.
That's social media.
I'm not on social media.
Well,
Right, anything else?
So let me try YouTube.
Do you have a specific
All right,
address on
thank
YouTube?
Oh, yeah,
We taught them out about our meetings.
Steve?
Yeah, I actually did a search this evening when I saw your note
Simple enough.
on YouTube. I was not able to find it. I tried it several different ways.
Malabor meetings.
Okay, I tried Malabor
Me
Town
too.
Hall,
Yeah,
Malabor
Mal,
Council meetings.
if you type in Malabar meetings, that's where it's at on YouTube. If I typed in town of Malabar meetings, it didn't come up.
Okay,
But the search engine found Malabar meetings,
Malabar meetings.
is
Okay,
where the,
that's how you
Yeah,
guys.
the only thing I ever found was Mayor Cruz's talk at a mayor's breakfast. That's the only thing, recording I ever found on, so, all right, thank you. All right, thanks for bringing that up. All right, we'll move on to reports. Brian?
I have nothing at this time.
Steve?
The only thing I have is continued presence of some junk boats near me on Hall Road. Any progress?
I know he had brought a trailer in to move that tower.
Okay.
Didn't check today if it's been there.
Okay, I couldn't tell you if anything is there today.
So he did communicate to me with an email.
Where is that, Steve?
On Hall Road.
Last week, so he was getting that out. So
Thank you.
Grant?
I have nothing this evening.
Danny?
I'm attending the advocacy seminar in Kissimmee Friday, the follow-up to the one I went to last month. Also, Mike Miller and Dominic have proposed, I was telling Debbie about it the other day, and Matt, 6 visits to Tallahassee over the next 6 months, with 2 League of Cities members going at a time at the, funded by the Space Coast League of Cities, and at no cost to any of the towns. And if I am on one, I'm not there to advocate for the town of Malabar. That would be against the way it's laid out. That question came up by Mayor Capote. Capote said, well, you know, how's the League of Cities paid for it if I'm going to argue for Palm Bay? Well, you're not. you can't do that. But it will be pretty good. And anyway, we're still working on signs, as I told you earlier. Dorothea finished up the disc court.
and it looks great.
It does. We did the public works, and just got to, I think they're going to have to put new posts up. Those posts were such that I didn't think I should even try to put the other sign back on.
I was there at 6:30 yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And generally speaking, everything's looking really good around here. I got some feedback on my contribution to the mailboat. Somebody misinterpreted a mill and thought it was a percent, and that it was going to cost some extra couple $1,000s a year if we did such a thing. And I said, no, a mill is 1,000. But
$10.
and what Debbie was putting forth, because we talked about this the other day, I think that if I were to propose such a ballot measure, I would like it to be on an even year where more people are likely to show up. I don't think that we should propose, this is just my opinion, even though it sets us back, propose such a thing on an election year like mine, where only 2 districts are required to vote. We might not get a sufficient turnout, and I think some people could point at that as being wrongly done. So anyway, I would propose that if we ask the people of Malabar to consider such a thing, we wait until we have a guarantee that more people will show up at the ballot. That's just my feelings. That's it.
Hey, Dick?
No, based on what he said, I think we need to advertise or let the people know the issues that we're going to have on the ballot this year. I'm not one of those issues for change. I'm going to be in touch with the sheriff and his administrative assistant. I mentioned the name Lindsay Deaton a while ago. for those of you who don't know, she's his administrative assistant in his office. And I have been pushing for more enforcement and more sheriff's department presence in Malabar, and obviously we've gotten it. And I'm gonna thank him, if it's a move to the council, thank him for what, the increased enforcement down there at Corey Road and Benjamin, and remind him that this needs to continue. Is that, anybody comfortable with me going that way with him?
Yes, that's good with me.
And that's where I'm at.
And I have nothing, so without objection, meeting adjourned.
Yeah, I know what you were saying, but it's not gonna be that big of a one.
So, you've been to all the meetings.
That's not our fault, that's the supervisor.